co-host as well.
Thank you. Sorry about that. It doesn't work to
Hi.
listen to 2 meetings at the same time.
I know, double tasking. So welcome to the Vermont Climate Solutions Caucus. We are winding in towards adjournment land. And so we wanted to take this week to hear some presentation on where we are with respect to climate investments in our budget. We have a budget that has now gone into conference committee, which means that the adjournment clock is ticking. Yes. I don't know if you're feeling happy about that, but I'm feeling happy about that. At any rate, we've got Joey Miller and Rebecca Ramos, who have been following the budget negotiations. And so I want to give you fine folks a few minutes to give us the overview. And then I think we should think a little bit about how, as the Climate Caucus, we can advocate for the best package of climate investments.
Great. So first of all, it's so exciting to see all of you. We do miss being in the building, and it's exciting to see your faces in real time because we see your faces all the time, but you don't know that we're watching you. So anyway, it's good to be live with you all. So I'm Rebecca Ramos. I'm a lobbyist. I do one of the lead lobbyists with the climate advocates groups, and for those who don't know me. And Joey, brief, I think probably everybody knows you.
Well, just wanted to say thanks for the opportunity. It is great to see you all live, and just appreciating the work you're doing from afar and the opportunity to connect with you today. And I'm Johanna Miller, Joey. I lead the Energy and Climate Program at the Vermont Natural Resources Council.
So what I thought when we talked with Senator Pearson and Representative Copeland-Hanzas, what it seemed like it might be helpful for you all to hear is sort of a 30,000-foot level of where climate is currently. And I would just, as someone who's been doing this for a long time and working on climate for a long time, it is exciting to just note that there's investments all over the place for climate initiatives. 5 years ago, that was not the case. And so regardless of how things sugar out this session, there is an administration and a House and a Senate that's eager to put dollars into addressing climate impact, and our climate economy. So, we always think we need to look back a little bit to see where we are to note that. And then so it's easier to see how, there's still a lot of work to do, but you've all, with y'all's work and commitment, it's been years, we are a top priority. So I'm not going to go through what the governor said, then what the House did, and where the Senate is, or the governor's ARPA plan. What I just want to emphasize is that all three entities have acted strong on climate. So what I want to do is just say where we are, so then that allows you all decide if and how you want to engage in the moment. I know that you all are aware that the budget is headed to conference, and we're waiting for the Senate conferees. You guys did your conferees today, and there are very real differences in the House and Senate budget on specific things. There are some differences on climate. It does not seem like those are going to be major, that are going to be like other things that will cause a lot of angst. It does seem like that there are places here that you guys will be able to weigh in and impact. Also note, and I'm sure you all are familiar, the has a little frustration with the legislature's position and how they have been using ARPA. We're not going to talk about that today because it's not really relevant to your position and what you're trying to do. That's going to be addressed above our pay grades, hopefully. addressed above our pay grades. So in this moment, and so is that helpful to set the stage, and would it help now to go into a little more detail? Does anyone have any questions before I go into a little more detail?
Looks like you're good to go. Thank you.
Okay. So one of the major differences in the House, because we're going to talk about the differences in the Senate budget, because that's how you impact the conference. Okay. So one of the major differences is that the Senate put in this $100 million basically reserve for climate council activities to embrace the climate action plan. That was something that the governor did in his ARPA plan, but that was, I think the reason the House didn't have it is because the ARPA money really hadn't been out. And so they only had ARPA for like 4 days, which is why you guys did the big 250 bid. You guys had this big section with not a lot of detail. So the Senate had the chance to really go into detail. It seems likely, and this is definitely something I would think if you guys agree, reserving that $100 million for the Climate Council and the Climate Action Plan seems like a good, like that would be like an easy, that would be easy. It's possible that House Approach is already thinking that. But that seems like a difference that you guys could potentially, the governor's in agreement, the Senate's in agreement. You guys probably would have done it if you had access to the ARPA dollars early. The Senate struck $10 million of a municipal loan program that was going to go through BGS through their SIM program, and basically it was going to allow BGS to provide loans to municipalities for weatherization. The Senate struck it because they believed that with all this ARPA money come from the municipal level, the towns really don't need loans. And so they struck that $10 million. So when you look at the chunk of dollars, the House had 41 million, the Senate ended up with like 30 million. And that relative difference has to do with this municipal program from BGS. The place where the advocates and we are saying, well, we would like that $10 million is the place that potentially there is work for the caucus to go there. Like if it's not going back to the place that the language that the Senate struck, is there something else that we could do with that $10 million that could move us forward? And Joey will be talking about that in just a minute, because she has been talking about it with Representative Hooper and others. There are other language changes and that are different. From the advocates' perspective, they are not like I think, and Joey, you can you could tell me differently. I think that we're fine, like it was fine either way, but the 30 million coming out of the Senate included 4 million for DCF and low income, 9 million to VHFA to start a loan program, 5 million to EVT for weatherization incentives, 2 million to EVT for workforce, and then 9 million for community scale renewable, 1.5 for CAP for like energy coaches, and then 500,000 to Mileage Smart for the CAP, which is a new, relatively new program. So that's similar to what the House did, but with some more details. Senator Perchlik, I know you were following this closely. Did you have anything to expand or add to the Senate position, or because in some ways we are a caucus letter, if you try to do one, will be partially responding to, that.
I have my own personal views.
Well, that's fine. Yes, so that would be fine.
Well, I guess I'm not prepared to kind of give a quick answer to it, but I think there's changes that could be made to to that, and I'm hopeful that the House conferees will at least consider, looking at that and seeing how improvements could be made. But I don't have a quick way of explaining those really quickly right now. Can you just tell me really quick who the House conferees are? I'm assuming it's Hooper.
Representative Fagan, and then Representative Jessup.
Okay, thank you.
So I know I hate when people give lists of money, so I'm sorry about that. I was trying to keep it detailed, but does anyone have any questions before we go to sort of like some thoughts on where there may make sense to try to scoop up more money, or maybe you guys don't even want to do that? Does anyone have any questions?
I don't see any questions.
Right. Well, the other thing I will add too, I have just been, oh, sorry.
Senator Pritchlick has a question.
So has the Climate Caucus sent a budget letter in the past? What was your comment there about sending a letter there, Rebecca? Who would be doing that?
Well, so just one thing I want to add, because I just saw Representative White on the T-bill has a lot of good stuff in it too, or you too, Senator Pritchlick. I'm sorry, I don't always automatically connect you to the transportation bill. But so there was a lot of good stuff in the T-bill also. So it could be a letter. If we never really wrote a letter except for under GWSA, because there's never been money. There really has never been like this much money to talk about. So this is a moment you all may not decide to, right? This is, as a caucus, one way you assert like your opinion is through letter writing, and so like it could be conversations you all have, it could be in more a formal letter, or, it could be nothing. This just could be like helpful information. So that said, if we wanted to talk about transportation, I bet Representative White or Senator Pritchlick could go into that details. So, I have all my clients write letters. I just want you to know we write a letter about everything, because especially now, and I know that you all know this, everything is so siloed that because you guys aren't able to talk in the hallways, it's like I've been sending more letters now than I have like in my entire work, because information has to be exchanged in some way. There just has to be a way to exchange information. And right now, especially around all these dollars, the really only way to do that is through some formal communication to committees.
On that topic, Senator Clarkson.
I'd just like to underscore what Rebecca just said. Our normal way that we pass information on informally, we have no breakfast, lunch, or dinner to do that. We have no ability in the loo to be telling Mary Hooper how much we care about X, Y, or Z. So I think it's critically important for this caucus to land on what it strongly supports in this budget as it gets negotiated. So I absolutely think that we will need that. There is the challenge is there is money in so many different places that it will be. I think one of the reasons I'm happy to be here today is to sort of get a sense of what's all under our umbrella at the moment, and where it's going to be negotiated. So having just heard the T-bill on the Senate floor, there's quite a bit of money that Becca and Andy can talk about in the T-bill.
And Representative Burke is here as well too.
Oh, and Molly, and sorry,
my glasses. Oh, there she is.
Molly. I just saw Becca.
Committee. We're listening to you. Yeah, I'm happy to dive in a little bit. Something to the point you just made, Rebecca, is I know that there was a conversation about a letter going to our chair to try to frame up some contingency language for kind of the incoming money that we will see out of session or right during session when it starts, and there's still flexibility for the agency to use it. So that's definitely something we're thinking about. And we were really excited. Thank you, Senate Transportation, to see some additional funding for some of the low income programs in particular. So I don't know, Representative Burke, if you want to jump in?
Well, we are actively working on this federal infrastructure language to put some guardrails around it, around climate. So that's being discussed sort of in the background right now, but we're working on it. And I guess, yeah, everything else, we're really glad that the Senate, funded all our incentives and added more to Mileage Smart. And the good news is that the PEV program has run out of money before the end of the session, and Michelle Boomhauer has been working to put some bridge money in there so the program won't go away. And so I think the $3 million that we're putting into that program could be spent by budget adjustment, the way things are going. Electric vehicles are really starting to fly off the lot, so that's a good thing.
Senator Perschlick.
Yeah, I was just going to let the caucus know that we're going to work with the Pro Tem's office on a summary of all the climate stuff in the bill. And we put it in section 2 of the bill, but instead of having people go to the bill and look at section 2, we're going to do a more user-friendly kind of update, hopefully get that done today, and we'll send it out to the caucus, or to you, Sarah, to get out to the caucus.
I thank you.
That would be super helpful.
Senator Tom Chittenden is also on, has joined us, and he's also on Senate Transportation with Andy.
Yeah, just I would yield to the vice chair. He's been a stalwart supporter of all of those initiatives that came over from the House, and I'm glad we got it passed.
Nicely done. Okay, so any other budget framing that Joey or Rebecca want to share with us?
Well, I would add, you all did write this letter once. You remember, and it didn't go well, but that was a different time and it was a different tone. So I really feel like this is a good opportunity to wipe that clean and be positive. Remember how much trouble we got in?
Yes.
So it was bad. So
yep, I'm still having some PTSD flashbacks to that. So I'm gonna push pause on the idea of drafting a letter at this moment. And I think what I would hope that Climate Caucus members would take away from this meeting today is a couple of the places where we see opportunities to advocate within our own bodies, a one-on-one with the folks who are in our appropriations committees and or on those conference committees, and see what we can accomplish in the next several days in terms of just one-on-one advocacy. I know it's challenging to do because we're all on Zoom all day long, but we also have all become very good at sending a text message or popping out an email. So let's definitely start with that. And this information that we're presenting to folks today is really to help all of us get oriented, because I don't know about you, but I have been sort of in my silo and not able to keep up with what is going on in the budget realm. So it's helpful to.
Well, so that might be helpful me to just to be very clear about what the ask is, because I just said a bunch of stuff. The ask would be, we're excited about the $1 million that's reserved for climate and the climate council and climate action plan. So that $100 million reserve of ARPA funds would be one thing. The other thing is, and this would be to the conference committee members or to the energy committee, because it's probably energy folks on the committee. You all may be making recommendations to House of Probes about the Senate position, and finding that lost the 10 million that was struck. Is there a third? We're trying to figure out the third way. So you're not just, so the House is just not going back. So it'd be so it could be a request that's and we hope we can find a way to bring the $10 million back that was struck in the Senate. So those are the two key pieces.
Yes, I would agree with, I would definitely agree with that. That 10 million in loan funds for municipalities. focused on weatherization, because we know that there is a slug of money coming to municipalities, but we don't necessarily know how any given municipality is going to focus on it. And so having this program that's specifically directed at giving technical support and loan support for municipalities to do that weatherization that'll reduce their energy use is very valuable, and honestly will positively impact all of our property taxes, because it's our property taxes that pay for the energy that it takes to heat and air condition our municipal infrastructure. So it's good for all of us. Chip Troiano.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. You know, we've been working on S79, which is a housing registry bill. And we had heard from Gus Seelig from Vermont Housing Conservation Board this morning. And, you know, it kind of comes all together when you talk about having 30 shovel-ready projects ready to go for funding. And probably the $40 million that's in there will not go far enough to complete those projects. But when you think in terms of these projects, you think in terms of downtown projects that are definitely related to transportation and energy efficiency, because weatherization is part of a number of the loans that will be made through the VHIP program to rehabilitate blighted and abandoned properties on a grant of $30,000 to a landlord who can put these back online with an eye toward weatherization of these apartments. So not only are we creating housing, we're creating more affordable and efficient housing that does play into our energy conservation mode. And I just wanted to let folks know that this is related, and you know, I will have it passed out this afternoon. And it'll hit the floor probably next week. So, and Senator Clarkson heard from me on this bill.
And the VHIP piece is also tied to up-to-date weatherization too.
That's correct.
A lot of housing work is tied to that.
Part of those grants should be or will be devoted toward weatherization.
So Chip, that is really helpful to hear you describe that. And I know that we can probably all think of buildings within our towns where, you know, geez, this is a great little building in our downtown that could be providing, you know, housing, but is in need of so much repair that you can't imagine it ever getting back in the housing stock. So when that program gets up and running, let's make sure that we share with our Climate Solutions Caucus colleagues how to get that information out to landowners in our communities who might be interested in taking advantage of that.
Yeah, it's Commissioner Hanford is running that program, and it actually they created 240 units last year with the original CARES funding that we gave them $33 million. So they were part of that project that created 240 affordable units throughout the state. Yeah, it's we're trying to get as much money as we can into it. It has been an incredibly successful program, and we just want to keep it running, and they're ready to go. So creating these downtown projects where people can walk to services and to the grocery store is a very important piece right now. And when you don't jump in your car to run 5 or 10 miles to the mini mart, it certainly has an impact over time.
Absolutely. Joey Miller, thank you.
Thank you. Well, first, I think Rebecca provided a really good summation. Not to overwhelm, but I'm just going to sort of encapsulate the high level of what she said here in the chat, if that's helpful, which is, you know, sort of what the governor did, his sort of 200 million bucketing off those dollars, and then what, you know, the Senate did and what the House did. And Senator Perchlik, I'm happy to work with you, so we're both not doing the same thing, because I actually have this written out in a more sort of in more specificity so that you could potentially build from and share with your colleagues here, so we can be all as efficient time-wise as possible. I would note that you noted, these numbers don't reflect what's in the transportation bill, which is great progress, nor do they recognize all the work you've been doing on broadband and the investments there as a really important sort of energy and connectivity issue, especially as we look to electrify and harness the, sort of our smart technology for resilience and energy efficiency strategies and sort of electrification, that sort of thing. So this, again, is very high level. I would note too, and just underscore Rebecca's enthusiasm for the commitment broadly among, the legislative and executive branch. Also recognizing that, what the governor did is, sort of appropriate the whole kit and caboodle, or at least make that sort of recommendation. And that I know, it seems like you all are sort of waiting a little bit longer, setting the stage for more due diligence, not appropriating all of it in this moment. And sort of there's more work to be done. And we look forward to thinking strategically about sort of multi-beneficial, climate beneficial investments. One thing that I would note that we would love to see, if there was bandwidth, especially as Rebecca noted, the primary difference between the House and the Senate passed version is the striking in the Senate of the state energy management program dollars, those $10 million there. There could be an opportunity to use, we would love to see, obviously a significant commitment to climate as possible and getting back up to sort of the 40 million in direct appropriations that the House made. And one thought about reappropriating those SEMP dollars, I think could be for just putting it on your radar for investing in our regional planning commissions, investing in capacity, people power in this moment in particular, because all these federal dollars are coming down into communities, and we want to help them, especially our smaller, more rural towns that don't have sort of the capacity like some bigger towns like my town of Montpelier to help, sort of understand what those dollars are, access those dollars, be able to help think strategically about where those dollars could go to help them implement the statutorily required enhanced energy plans, the ensuing work that's going to happen at the local and regional and state level related to the climate action plan that the new Global Warming Solutions Act requires. So I just want to make a plug for one of my big roles is to work with the network of town energy committees. They're playing an important role, but we need more people power to help really maximize this moment. And an investment in our regional planning commissions, I think, is one potential strategic tool, again, as they have the obligation to create an enhanced energy plan that says how each region is going to get to the 90 by 2050 total renewable energy goal, to our climate targets that we now have in the Global Warming Solutions Act. So at least one more person would be really helpful in this moment. And we have other ideas for how to potentially repurpose those SEMP dollars, but just wanted to sort of share those things and offer to work with you, Senator Perchley, because there is some important nuance that you might want to consider and weigh in on, and that we'll be offering our thoughts to your sort of colleagues on the conference committee related to the meaning of those nuances and our recommendations in this moment. So thanks for that. Just wanted to share a few more things.
Thank you. Scott Campbell.
Hi there. I want to go back to the VHIP thing that Chip and Allison were talking about. So is the loan money then contingent on meeting code and especially RVs? Is that true? RVs are CDs as appropriate?
They're not loans, they're grants, or they can ask for a longer period of time and then it becomes a loan that's refundable. That's repayable. Yes, it's bringing things up to code. It's blighted and vacant properties, bringing them up to code and weatherizing them.
Right.
Is that, Chip, isn't that, I reported it, so I think that's right.
That's correct. Yes.
Right. Well, the energy code is the important part as far as, this group is concerned.
I got it, but these
Yeah.
are all the housing, actually, all the new housing dollars have weatherization elements in them. So we can claim all the new housing and VHIP and the new home ownership that you're adding on to S79, right, Chip?
Yes, there's money available for, so these are loans that are not paid back until the sale of the property.
So that's home ownership.
For home ownership,
Right,
yeah.
for home
Not
ownership.
VHIP.
Yes.
VHIP are
VHIP,
grant.
right, that's for apartments. Yes. Yes.
And then,
Go ahead, sorry.
Did you want to say something else about that, Rebecca? Or
I just wanted to add it, and I maybe you guys talked about it today, but it wasn't clear if the budget included all the money for SB9. That's all. I couldn't find it because
Correct. It only included 3 million for VHIP. Oh, no, it had 5 million for VHIP.
500
It had
million.
no money for the home ownership piece because we didn't do it. So that will be part of the negotiation.
Well, it's in there now.
What?
okay, great. Excellent.
So, but I guess our point, Chips and my point is all the new housing dollars can be counted towards in our summary here because they will all have weatherization elements and the home ownership and the VHIP. There are three different buckets.
Right.
And then one other thing, as long as I have your attention, Allison, you're going to be talking about H157, the builder registration tomorrow, which is really important as far as educating our builders.
As you'll recall, I reported this on the floor of the Senate marked in that article, House of Landlords, that when we found out how many people both owned apartments and supported contractors not getting licensed, not getting registered. So I'm very familiar. We're taking it up Friday morning.
Yep.
We love this bill.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And you're coming to our committee, I hope, to frame it up.
I don't think I'm on your schedule, but I'm happy to.
Who's framing it up, Chip or?
I was there originally on it a few weeks back.
Right. Of course. So because you reported it.
Right. Correct.
Right. Yeah. We're all teed up and ready to go.
Okay.
You've got Lauren Hibbert, Chris Curtis, some other people. Yeah.
We have a good.
Okay.
Super. That reminds me that as soon as we're done with this conversation about the budget, we just want to get a quick update on any other climate priority bills that are still in process that we might want to lend some energy to get them across the line. Carrie Dolan.
Thank you. And I forgive me for being a tad late here. My question is in regards to the governor's priorities on climate, which I think it makes sense to set aside the 100 million for the Climate Council's recommendations. I look forward to that. I can only presume that some of the recommendations will be about expanding EV infrastructure, weatherization, fuel switching, and some resiliency work regarding buyouts. And so that represented the big chunk of the other 100 million. And so I'm really interested in promoting or furthering the objectives contained in here. I think it's these are important priorities. And so I throw that out as important. The other thing I do want to mention, however, with respect to climate resilience is in addition to the hazard mitigation buyout program, which is critical, there are some important needs with respect to nature-based solutions for resilience, whether that looks at forest blocks for sequestration, it looks at floodplain, river corridor protection, wetland protection. And those are typically also low-lying, low-cost, important initiatives for greater resilience. So I throw those two opportunities, I guess, big opportunities.
So those were not, hazard mitigation is not in either version. Joey, and you're closer to these parts, it's not in either version. We know there are other advocates that are trying to push for that. And so I'm not sure about the green infrastructure. I'm not sure if there is a in the sort of reserve waterfall language on the Senate position, there's another $10 million for VHIP for conservation. So that could potentially relate to it, but I didn't see but we have not counted that as, it's not clearly marked for green infrastructure.
Okay, I guess the heart of my question is, or believe it or not, there was a question in there, was the importance of some of the recommendations contained in the governor's proposal, that 100 million that is aligned with our priorities too. So I'm very interested in knowing how we can make sure that in addition to some other priorities, that is something that we move on. I didn't see it necessarily come out of the Senate side.
It didn't, and I would say, so what if the arguments that's happening is right now is the governor spent all of ARPA and the House, well then it's said, and I think the House leadership agrees, we want to put some of this money away and see what happens in the fall with additional dollars coming. Let's see how this money spends and see where we need to go. So that there definitely is tension around all those things. But that's up to y'all. I mean, it may be that you should look at, maybe Joey, we could what did not go out of the governor's ARPA package and see what makes sense.
Joey.
Well, yes, I would just echo that because I think Representative Dolan, your point's well taken. I think there's a lot of interest and a need for that, and more time, as the work happens on the Climate Council, there's in the subcommittees, the Resilience and Adaptation Subcommittee in particular, they're looking at that. I think there's more time to figure out, the priorities that the governor laid out. They are in the center of a lot of those conversations. I am the environmental rep on the Climate Council, and there's a lot of talk about all of this. And I think, I think more work and opportunity to figure out what that looks like as you sort of potentially spend those dollars a little bit further out. So I just wanted to note that. And then one other just distinction I would note that's important for, from where I sit, is that the governor had recommended 100 million for climate action plan implementation from the ARPA dollars. The Senate language currently has $100 million for implementation of the climate action plan from ARPA dollars or other sort of state or federal funds coming down the road. So it does, the level of investment that we're going to need to make, which is an investment, which it will, I think, pay off over time in terms of money savings, job creation, health benefits, and doing our part on climate. We're going to need to make some significant investments. And I think what we hope for is $100 million fenced off from ARPA dollars to implement the climate action plan over the next few years. And that could be broadly implementing it, to Representative Dolan's point. And then as a potential infrastructure dollar comes down, or other federal dollars and state programs are put together, strategically using those dollars for the transportation transformation we're going to need to make, and all the other things that we're going to have to do to make this an affordable, equitable transition, and realize all the benefits that this can provide the state of Vermont when we wean ourselves off of every drop of imported fossil fuels that we are currently using. So a few things just to add there, and note, if folks have more questions about the Climate Council work, knowing what an important partner, obviously pivotal partner, the legislature is in the implementation and success of that endeavor, I look forward to being a resource down the road.
Senator Clarkson.
Just to tag on that, the Senate budget language, and Andy and Tom can correct me, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but my understanding from Jane is that she's trying to keep that language open so that if and when we get this infrastructure bill, 100 million isn't going to be spent tomorrow. So it's going to be spent over a couple of years. And I think their committee's work was trying to keep the language open so that it could be used, that we could also use money from other bills if they came from the feds and it was appropriate. So I believe that's why that language is the way it is. So
Thank
to broaden our options of other pots we could use.
All right, so John Bartholomew.
I was just wondering, are we on to other bills that the committee might want to be, the caucus would be watching?
Yep, I wanted to pivot to that for a moment, and then hopefully give everyone a few minutes to do some jumping jacks before 1 o'clock.
Well, one I think is pretty important is S47, which is the one that will allow direct-to-consumer sales of zero emission vehicles like Tesla, for example. Right now, and I think it's important because if we're going to promote electric vehicles, we've got to make sure that all Vermonters who buy them can get them serviced. And the issue is that these companies can start a dealership, but they cannot have a warranty or service center in the state. And it seems to be running into some roadblocks with some of my colleagues in the Transportation Committee. So I think that's an important one to try to get through.
Yep, absolutely. Molly Burke.
Yeah, I'm just tagging on to that. We heard testimony yesterday from Rivian, and they are making pickup trucks, and they could be a beneficiary of this bill. I think the testimony we heard yesterday from my Windham County Sheriff about his Tesla and how he's having a hard time getting it serviced. I think, I don't know, John, it's going to be interesting to see where our committee comes down on this bill, but it's S47. So we're hoping to get it out of our committee.
All right. Anyone want to flag any other bill that we should be sending our energy and good thoughts and peer-to-peer advocacy on? Carrie Dolan.
Thank you. We passed out of our committee, the Natural Resources, Fish and Wildlife Committee, S101. I think it's taking a stop at one of the money committees before it goes to the House floor. But this bill supports the modernization of bylaws to encourage smart growth, support our smart growth principles, which are to achieve pedestrian-friendly, bike-friendly, walkable communities. And with these types of improvements in the bylaws, it would not only achieve affordability with respect to housing, but can also have huge climate benefits as well. So I wanted to flag that. It is different from what came over the Senate. We did strip out a couple of provisions pertaining to water, wastewater hookups, and but fundamentally, this bill is a good bill and has multiple benefits. So stay tuned.
Super. Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much to Rebecca and Joey for being with us, help us understand the opportunities for maximizing our budget investments in climate. All right, so keep up the good work, folks. We will stay in touch about when we're meeting again, and that is all for today. House members, we'll see you on the floor.
Thank you for keeping this moving.